Facebook family, go ahead on tag share. Listen, we got an exciting show today right here on 95.3 FM. Get everybody in to what's happening on Hallelujah 95.3. Want to say good afternoon and once again, welcome to Wake Up Wednesday right here on 95.3 FM. That's right, your wake up alarm. That's right, to wake you up to what's going on in and around our city, our community, our state, and even our nation. Want to say good afternoon to you. Hey, go ahead on and let everybody know the Wake Up Wednesday show, it's on the air. So much is happening in and around our city. Big city commission meetings tonight, this afternoon at 3 o'clock. And so many people are talking about what they're talking about. And we're not going to talk about what they're talking about. We're going to talk about what we want to talk about on this Wake Up Wednesday. I'm going to be talking to the founder and the CEO of Beyond Bank. It's an amazing company. He's going to talk to a little bit about what's happening with the digital currency that's taking place in our world, how the dollar bill really has no significant value. You want to stay tuned to hear that. Also, we're going to be talking to Mr. Carlos Henry. He's going to be telling us about the important program that's coming up on tomorrow. It is the program that Lyft is sponsoring. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening in and around our city. So don't go nowhere. Keep it locked right here, 95.3 FM. Hallelujah. Hey, I'll be right back and we will get this conversation started. Let this song bless you and I'll be right back. To the Lamb on the throne who gave his life for us, that we might have life and have it more abundantly. Glory to your name. You are the Lamb of God, the Lion of Judah, a mighty strong tower. You are an awesome wonder. You stand triumphant. All right. We walk in victory. Hey, Facebook family, go ahead on and tag and share. Glad to have you all tuned in. Trying to. My Redeemer, my Defender, my Waymaker, Lord, forever you are my deliverer, great deliverer. Thank you, Jesus. Give the praise to Lion of Judah. The word declares you're a mighty strong tower. There's none on the earth like you. You are awesome. You stand triumphant. And not on that. Hey, Facebook family, go ahead on and tag and share. I'm sitting in the studio with none other than the CEO and founder of Beyond Bank, Mr. Gerald Rogers. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How you doing today?
Man, listen, I'm excited. I'm glad to. I'm doing wonderfully well. I'm glad to have you joining us today. Having a little problem with this. If you all can see me through Facebook Live, go ahead on and put some hearts on that screen. I want to make sure that you can see me. Having a problem with the background, but I want to make sure that you can see me. Let me see something. I need to take it back right. And the word declares that whatever we bind on the earth, it will be bound in the heaven, and what we loose on the earth will be loosed in heaven. So we sing it in here. Whatever we loose on earth, it shall be loosed in heaven. Whatever we loose, it shall be loosed. Whatever we loose on earth, it's gonna be loosed. Thank you, Jesus. Whatever we need, it shall be done. It shall be done. It shall be done. Okay, there we are. We are absolutely amazing. It's a better look right now. Okay, bless you. Thank you so much. We got it handled. Okay, we are good. Having a little problem getting that background cleared up. So listen, man, glad to have you stop by. And you are the CEO and founder of Be Your Own Bank. Tell us a little bit about what Be Your Own Bank is.
That movement is really, it's really about a movement of economic empowerment. Sometimes in our lives, our whole teachings and we've been taught how to go work for money, but there was never really a concerted effort to ensure that money's always working for us. And that's really what our movement entails, taking those very things that have been hidden from our communities and we bring it back.
Wow. Hey, keep it locked right here, Facebook family. Want to say good afternoon. We were off the air talking with the CEO and founder of Be Your Own Bank, Mr. Gerald Rogers. Our Facebook family had an opportunity to hear some of the things that he was saying about the movement. But joining us on the phone line right now is the organizer, the leader of Project Lift, and want to say good afternoon to Miss Henry. How are you?
Hey, you got 2 for 1 here. You actually have the founder of the movement, Carlos Henry, as well, with you for Community Lift.
Well, wonderful. It's amazing to have CNC on the phone lines, Carlos and Christy, to talk about what's happening in our city on tomorrow. First of all, let me say that I'm excited to have you all. There's so much going on in and around our city on tomorrow, so much development, so much build. I mean, the city is just expanding. And let's talk about, first of all, what Community Lift is doing. Secondly, is let's talk about the event tomorrow. And thirdly, I want to talk about the minorities that are being engaged in this whole redevelopment and expansion process of what's happening in our city. Carlos, let me start with you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm so glad and privileged to be a part of the Wake Up Wednesday. I'm woke already. Can't you hear it in my voice?
Hey, listen, one thing about Wake Up Wednesday, the alarm clock may get you up out the bed, but Wake Up Wednesday gonna get you on your feet. So I'm glad to know that you're woke. And let's talk about, I mean, I've been dying to have this conversation with you. We were scheduled to have it 1 or 2 times and something always came up, but I'm excited today that Miss Christique were able to get you on the phone to tell the community about what's happening on tomorrow.
Well, it's exciting stuff. Again, that's the thing that we have going on right now. A lot of people are seeing a lot of development happening in our city. The question is, and this is a question that's happening all across the nation, where are the developers that look like you and me? Where are the brown and black developers that are taking advantage of the amazing opportunity to do development in our communities? And that's a vacuum that's happening not only in our city, but across this country. But fortunately, there is a movement afoot here locally that started with our group called Community Lift. We're transforming our communities through education, collaboration, and wealth creation.
Wow. You know what? I want to stop you right there, Carlos, because I have in the studio with me the CEO and the founder of BYOB, Be Your Own Bank. And when it comes to economic development, he was just sitting here listening and I could see him saying, let me plug in something right there because he understands the development part of it. Mr. Rogers, what are your thoughts about what you just heard? I mean,
it's just simply amazing. And what he said was collaboration. That's one of the things that have, deprived our community for so often that, we have to create a round table where everybody's at the table has equal value. And that's one of the things now when he said the word collaboration, it kind of made my baby leap because, we can have information, but without wealth creation, then we're still running around and walking around that wall. That 40-year, that 11-day journey turns into 40 years. So I'm so excited to know that he's in that process of lifting the community up. And as we lift each other up, then we can be even more economically empowered.
And one of the things that I'm so delighted about you, our relationship go way back to the point to whereby, I was working with the Opportunity Zone. You were doing so much in and around the state when it comes to opportunity zones, when it comes to bringing developers together, when it comes to building up our community. So, Carlos, With that being said, man, with Mr. Rogers here with us and you and Christique on the phone, let's really begin to dive into what our community needs to do as we look at what our redevelopment looks like. How does the community play a part in all of this?
Well, I think one of the things that, like what we're doing as an organization that formed out of the Southside Tour of Homes that we had last year that we kicked off on the south side of Tallahassee, showcasing, if you will, or celebrating the unsung economic engines in our community, the Black developer and contractor. We have a group called the Black Developers, Contractors, and Investors Alliance. And with this particular alliance, we're actually bringing forth resources and advocacy through relationships. And so this is what we've done, started last year, and we have a meeting coming up tomorrow, actually, on the 17th at 6:30. It's a virtual meeting, so we have a call out to everybody that you're not restricted with location. You can be anywhere in the world and participate in this lively conversation that we're going to have on tomorrow. There's going to be a series of meetings that we're going to have coming forward after this one. But tomorrow's meeting is going to be along the lines of discussing somewhat of a state of affairs or the state of the union for Black developers and contractors in our local market and in a broad conversation that's happening across the country. So we're going to be discussing obstacles and opportunities for 2022, how to thrive in a post-pandemic economy.
Wow. So when we look at Black developers, Black contractors, when we look at even small minority subcontractors that are African Americans, Jerry, I want to pose this question to you because I know you've been engaged in so many. What do you think some of the challenges that they're facing now?
Well, obviously, for any business owner, lack of access to capital and resources. And so we have to be in a position to bring that understanding to the forefront. And it starts in small, groups. And then, each one teach one. And that's really the thought process of why it's so important, because being aware, you can have that specific trade in those, but if you don't understand the resources, and the gentleman mentioned relationship capital, we have to really take the time to cultivate and build relationships so that then we no longer are stymied by holding information, but the more we expose people to resources and things like that, collectively, we all get the benefit of that.
Wow. Carlos, Christique, relational collaboration creates relational investment, and it creates a opportunity for there to be a wealth of information that gives value. We're no longer a liability when we have relational collaboration.
Oh, indeed. I think that we need to really diversify how we approach the definition of relation, because there are two types of dichotomies of relation. The first is relation to each other within the space that we occupy. The other is the relation of the topic to the data that supports it. And so when we look at development, we're not just saying, oh, please give us opportunity. We're not begging. What we recognize is that for every development project, a minimum of 35 and more contract economic activities are happening. That means for every development project, for every residential renovation, for every house construction, you're looking at a minimum of 35 job opportunities, contracting opportunities, business development opportunities that happen for our community. So this is more than just a we shall overcome conversation. This is about economic liberation. This is about saying this activity is happening in our communities, and we need to make sure that we're relating to each other informationally in a way where we can relay the relational economic impact to the folks that need to hear what we're saying. Because it's definitely known that many of our communities that we love and care about, like Southside Tallahassee, they're also known as credit deserts. And so for people who are trying to obtain capital, people who are trying to activate capital in these spaces to create these economic events, it's difficult. It's a recession 2008 happening over and over again on the microeconomic level. So we have got to have our agenda straight and our data relations straight as we approach our advocacy to bring capital, but the relationship with each other, plans of action, shared agenda, That is crucial. And that is what Carlos has activated through this Builders, Developers, and Investors Council. What we all need to be working toward as we work together for a shared vision of how we economically sustain our cultural identity within our community.
Wow. You know, one of the things that I want to dive on, Carlos, and I want you to hit on it, and then Jerry, I want you to give me some feedback as well, because Christique, you said something. We look at our city, and now we see that building, expanding, is moving south. We see now that South Side has become really a gold mine for the opportunity to do redevelopment, and so many people are taking advantage of making it seem and feel and believe that minority participation is at the table. And Carlos, how are you able to bring some insight to situations where people are creating developments, but they are saying that minorities are engaged, but minorities are really not engaged?
Yeah, I think that's the narrative that we're trying to change. And I think in our city, we don't really have many of us at the table that are doing these particular projects. Therefore, we're at the mercy of someone outside coming into our market and trying to, squeeze out, if you will, some type of community benefit agreement with those that may not have the interests of our community at heart. They may think that they have the bottom line at heart, and not necessarily the interest of the community. So I think the narrative that we have to do is fill the gap, if you will, of information of how to put together these types of developments so that we can have an eye and see the opportunities that's right in our neighborhoods. And I think that's the thing when we talk about community development, the training that we're doing now, we're actually allowing people to understand what community development is and what it is not. Community development is not bringing in outside resources. It's basically taking the resources that are already in the community, we call them assets, and being able to redevelop and add value to the resources that are already in our community. And you can't do that if you don't have an eye to see it.
Wow. Jerry, your background is in banking, finance, and you have seen this a number of times. And Carlos, I really want to thank you, because I want you to hold tight, because I want to really dive into something, because I'm beginning to see something that is very alarming. And that is, there is not enough minorities that are being engaged into, and I applaud the work that you're doing with Community Lift by bringing Black developers together, but still there's something that's missing. We still see developers, we still see the GCs, they don't look like us. We still see the subcontractors that look like us. They're not able to participate in the whole process. What do you see as you look back at your years of being in finance, and even now as you look back at your present situation as the founder of Beyond Bank? What do you see some of the major? What must we do?
Well, one of the things is, we keep coming back to understanding and being responsible for creating our own personal narrative. We have allowed too many outside sources to create our own narrative. So when we control our own narrative, our own dissertation to who we are as a community, then we're able to understand that, success is an inside out job. We have to adopt that thermostat mindset. No matter what's happening, even if the rules are not in our favor, we have to be present, we have to be accountable, and we have to be responsible, and we have to be able to show up to make our voices loud, not only when it's not happening, but we have to be proactive as it's happening.
Wow.
And that's the thing that we have to get back to. And just go back to working in pride, because, we have to be responsible too. And we have to get away from, nobody owes us anything, right? Even though the rules may change, but we have to be present. And it's not going to happen until we understand that synergy, blending all the talents together, is better than one individual part.
Wow. Christique, we got to be present. We got to be at the table, and we have to understand the power of synergy. And we cannot continue to feel like it's okay to just know that it's okay, but really it's not okay when we see what we see in our community.
I think, Greg, all that being said here goes back to this thing called love. When you love something, you're intentional about its care, its preservation. You're intentional about what you allow to come to it. You're intentional about the investment you make for it. And I think that the thing I love about Southside Tallahassee and what it has been to me is it has been a base of love. It has shown me love in action. And so we have to pay that back. We have to pay that forward. How do we show that love in action? Well, we know our neighbors are struggling with finding somewhere to live affordably. We know that our neighbors are looking for economic opportunity. We know they're looking for training to develop their own enterprises. Love in action isn't just charity, isn't just service, acts of service. It's also acts of empowerment. And so when we embrace an agenda, like Carla said earlier, of community development, then we will see economic development manifest. But we have to start from love. And we have to know how love materializes into value on the community level and preservation.
Wow. So Carlos, let's find out. Give us more information on tonight, how people can tune in. I mean, and just tell them, how can they get involved in this conversation tonight?
So actually, it's going to be tomorrow night, Thursday, the 17th at 6:30. It's a virtual meeting. It's the Black Developers, Contractors, and Investors Alliance, which we call BDCIA. And so that meeting is tomorrow. It's going to be a Zoom meeting. Again, it's titled Obstacles and Opportunities in 2022, Thriving in a Post-Pandemic Economy. We have some special panelists that are going to be involved. We have Mr. Kenneth Tate, the CGC general contractor that is involved in the building of the police station, public safety complex, the Northwood Mall Center. He's going to be there discussing some of the opportunities that are available in the whole panhandle of Florida with the Department of Transportation. I have one of my partners named F.A. Johnson. He is a second generation Black real estate developer and attorney that's coming in from South Carolina. He's going to be on the call. In that meeting, and then we have another guy. His name is Dwayne Rakin. He is from the Florida Community Loan Fund, which is a CDFI that specializes in financing community development and economic development projects all over the state of Florida. So we're going to have a power-packed meeting on tomorrow. Again, we're going to be discussing the obstacles. What are the headwinds that we're facing as Black developers, contractors, and investors in this pandemic economy? But on the backside of every obstacle is a great, grand opportunity. So we're going to talk about not just the obstacles, but also the opportunities that we must, again, I repeat, we must take advantage of in 2022. Because again, one of the great opportunities is in this pandemic economy. I was talking with one of my other colleagues, I said, being Black right now is in style, right? So people are all over this country are talking about economic development. They're talking about equity, inclusion type of development. And so there's a lot of capital out there that want to do diversified development, and they're looking for Black and brown developers to fund development within their community. So that's one of the opportunities that we got to take advantage of, because just like the Jerry curl, if y'all remember that used to be in style at one point, but the Jerry curl is no longer in style. So with this same trend, we have to strike while the iron is hot.
Wow. It's amazing you said that. And I want to talk about, if you got a few more minutes, I want to talk about something that is very dear to me. And I'm grateful for your leadership and bringing all of the Black developers, all of the general contractors together. And you and I, Christy, we have talked about the value that being at the table brings when it comes to the many of our young men who are, formerly incarcerated, many of our young men who have probably, dropped out of school. And you all, Christy, you and Carlos, have been able to bring to the forefront something that I feel is so valuable. And that's working with men who are formerly incarcerated, being able to have them to get engaged into some of the skilled projects that are being done on-site training when it comes to the general contractor having an opportunity to bring on someone that looks like us that can hire formerly incarcerated men and those who are looking for work. How has that been, and how has it been received when it comes to the developers that don't look like us, who understand what we're trying to do, making sure that resources stays in our community by employing those that are in our community? How has that been so far?
So I think it's a double-edged sword. As Paula said earlier, we're in meaty times. We're in a human resource deficit as well as an equity era, where people are really saying, okay, America, we need to make sure that opportunity reflects demography. And so I think that the other side of that sword is that within the community, we got to make sure that people are ready to take advantage of the opportunity. And so when we talk about hiring our returning neighbors, we really comprehensive approach to making sure our neighbors are in a stable condition where they can maximize the opportunities that they would be engaged in. Having, housing instability, income instability, things of that nature, that reflects in their ability to be faithful or to be consistent or to be, to show up. And I think that that's something huge that we have to make sure that we understand. When we have our neighbors who are on survival coming out, we can give opportunity all day long, but if they're still in survival, they're not going to be able to maximize those opportunities. So significant and very intentional systems have to be in place to address the ancillary things that are important also to be able to address the hierarchy of needs, housing stability, being able to understand the family factors and have resources in place, mental health, and behavioral support for those that are battling addictions or are coming out of the system with latent issues that have to be addressed. Mentorship and accountability systems. It's so holistic, and we need a holistic framework because we want success. We don't want to just have 2 or 3 people that come out the system that we say we help. We don't want that. That's not, it's great, but it's not what we would call sustainable success. We want to have a system where someone that comes out of that returns from corrections or returns from prison or returns from jail, they can instantly hook up and they can be able to take opportunity and maximize opportunity because it's a human resource deficit. People are looking for folks to work. So the contractors, they want folks to work, but they also don't want liability on their site. And I can understand that because I don't like liability either. So we have to be looking at it from both sides of it and being able to mitigate liability associated with opportunity so that we can have sustainable success.
Wow. Mr. Carlos, what have you seen as a level of success with being able to find young men some stable income along with a job that's teaching them a skill that perhaps can change their life forever?
Yeah, we've worked with several, and I think like what Christy is saying, what we are learning from experience is that we provide some economic opportunities for folks. Some have gone well, some have not gone well, because we need to build out the other parts of it, where we're not only just giving them jobs, but we're giving them all the other support areas that they need. So that's been our struggle at this point, being able to put those other pieces together where we can have a holistic approach where we're getting people out of survival mode because we give these individuals opportunities and jobs, but they have all these other personal things happening, so they can't show up or they, can't be on work at time and on time and all that kind of stuff, which is a liability, like she was mentioning. So I think, like she's saying, with our experience so far, we've had some success, but in order to have sustainable success and have more numbers to impact, we need to have a holistic approach and working in that collaboration model that we were saying that we work in, trying to figure out how we can collaborate with other nonprofits that may be able to add some social services to wrap them around around to be able to take advantage of these jobs and economic piece that we can bring to the table.
Wow. I think one of the most important things that we can note today as we move forward, I think that our whole community, if it's going to see the kind of sunshine that we want to see shining in our community, is definitely going to have to take collaboration. We are going to have to learn how to collaborate. We're going to have to learn that if Doc has the hammer, and if I have the nails, and if you have the rake, and if Christy have the shovel, we got to bring all of that together so that we can get the job done. No one piece is more valuable than the other when it comes to making sure that the job is done. And I really want to applaud you all, want to applaud you, Carlos, for taking the lead to do something that has never really been done, trying to bring Blacks who are in the area of construction together up under one banner, so that it won't be a matter of competition, but it will be a matter of us collaborating to make things much better for our communities. And once again, it's happening on tomorrow. It's an amazing conversation that you don't want to miss. And if our communities are going to see the results that we're looking for, it has to be about collaboration. And you both are on the South Side, and the South Side has become the spotlight of all of our news.
Yeah, we definitely understand, but you know what? We have not just understood the value of a South Side. We've been understood. We heard a national broadcast where a guy said on BET, "There's gold in them their streets." And when you look at communities like a South Side, or you look at a community like a Frenchtown, I think that it's up to us as the inheritors of those legacies in those communities to determine its value and to respect its legacy as we move forward with economic and community development in those areas. It's not enough to just talk about economic opportunity. We must integrate the history, the legacy, the advocacy, all of those things that folks who had to experience disenfranchisement, marginalization, segregation, disinvestment, all of these things, but still they rose and were resilient. And we have to put that up front. And why did they do that? They didn't do it out of anything but love and the belief that our community should have its own identity, should survive. And we have to honor that, and we have to respect that. And when we approach this economic and community development, we have to preserve it.
Wow. I just don't want to just highlight one project, but there are so many things that are on the horizon for the South Side. And I really feel and believe that the Soma Walls project gives a model for developers that are coming into the South Side areas, a model to follow when it comes to Carlos, minorities being at the table, when it comes to over 30% of contracts being given to minorities. I think Soma Walls has created that kind of model, and I think it's important, very important for any other developer that's trying or looking to develop to engage the community as they has already done. What's your thoughts? What's your feelings, your insight as we move forward and as we try to keep Black developers at the table so that they can also be a part of the work process?
Yeah, I think the Soma Walls project is definitely a model to move forward. That doesn't really happen on the private side because he is a private developer. And so I think we were able to work with him to create this community benefit agreement that's going to benefit the community. So it was a proactive approach to development. So I think he's setting the precedent, a bar that's pretty high for all the developers that will come behind him. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to do as well with this incubator program this initiative is really a developer and incubator, and we're trying to raise up other developers to be able to see this model that we were able to carve out with the Soma Walls project and be able to replicate that with folks that look like us and expand upon that what we were able to start out, because the Somo Walls project is only a start, not the finish line, but the beginning line. And I think that that's the thing that we are trying to do with this initiative.
And just my humble thought process is that, you know, I heard people say all the time that if you're not at the table, then you're going to be on the menu. So as our city grows, as our elected officials are serving the community, it's vitally important for them to understand that minorities have to be at the table. It's vitally important for developers to understand that our community has historical value, and you cannot ignore that historical value. Definitely, we want to see growth, we want to see development, but we also want to know that we are at the table in the process. So big shouts out to the developer of Somo Walls who engaged the community. And then there are so many who don't engage the community, but yet and still they make the community perceived as has wrapped their arms around what's going on with the development. And I think that we cannot sit idly by and be silent about it, because we have to know and we have to be engaged to ensure that there is value giving to our community, and there are resources that's going to stay in our community, and there are people who are going to be employed from our community, from these millions upon millions of dollars of projects that are coming into our community.
Well, let me interject this, because I think this is one. I'm going to give a little teaser to your audience today. For the meeting tomorrow, one of the things that we're gonna talk about is the impact of private development and why this initiative is so important. Because in our town, in Tallahassee, everybody's going after government contracts, or trying to anyway. There's millions of dollars coming down the pipeline, but the problem is that a lot of the people in our community that need those contracts, they don't have the track record, they don't have the resume or the capacity to take advantage of those particular contracts. So if we can do on the private side with these development projects that we're doing on the private side, as we become the developers, we can create a program to be able to give them the capacity, give them the track record that they will need to then take that track record and go after these millions of dollars on the government contracting side. Because on the private side, we can actually give them the resume that they've worked on projects with federal dollars. If we're working on a CRA project or Oxzone project or or a CBDG project dealing with federal dollars, if we brought those particular contractors in on those projects, that would be a way for them to incrementally build their resume that they then can turn around and bid on other government contracts. So that's the beauty or the synergy of having this combined, a holistic approach of developing developers that can now bring more opportunity in the government contracting space as well.
Wow. And you know, it's not just it's not just on the Black developer side. I think it's on all four fronts when it comes to the nonprofits, when it comes to individuals who are in our community doing the work, when it comes to just trying to see how do they get to the table. So Carlos, again, I really want to applaud you for your work in making sure that our young men, our developers, our contractors are at the table. And it's only going to happen collectively, because like you said, we don't have the track record, but we're doing the work. We haven't met all the necessary qualifications that need to be, but we still have to make sure we're making sure our family needs are met. So therefore, we're getting jobs to keep bread on the table. But the big jobs that we need to be a part of, we are not able to get at the table. So I want to thank you for just doing what you have done thus far. And I'm sure you've seen already results. And I'm sure with the Somo Walls project, it's very much a model that any developer, private developer, must have to look at to see how do I engage the community like this, so that my project can have the grace and the applause of a community that I'm going to be a part of. So it's happening on all fronts. And Christy, as we get ready to wrap this up, I think that as we look at the South Side, I think that so much is going on, so much is happening. It's going to be vitally important that we have in place what needs to be there, and that we hold even those elected officials that are working on the South Side, that are part of that district. It's important that they know the value of what the South Side brings to the table, not what a developer brings, but what the South Side brings.
Oh, indeed. And, again, going back to that four-letter word called love, when you look at the history of this community, which is, quite frankly, it's depending on who you ask, because pretty much been the backyard of Tallahassee. You see how people have taken what others have devalued and made shining diamond gold value out of it, brought some of the most, charismatic leaders, some of the most entrenched advocates in Tallahassee have come from the South Side of Tallahassee. And I am just always in awe of their legacy as a person that was raised by some of those great stakeholders and trustees of the community. So I think that as we move forward, three things come to mind immediately that we need to definitely do. First of all, we need to know what we're doing. We need to understand what it is that needs to be done and know what we're doing. Second thing is that there needs to be a unified agenda. It doesn't matter who does what part, who parts whatever, right? People can own pieces of it, but if you're going to take a piece of it, you need to do it. Not say you're doing it, you need to do it. And then the third piece of this is that we have to make an assessment of what has happened and really catapult that and celebrate the success of what we have been able to accomplish. And that's going to come through intentional research, intentional just documentation of all the activities that Carlos and you and others in the real estate field and the community development field, how are we working together to solve our own issues? How are we working together to bridge and to integrate love into everything that we do in service on both the community and economic front? If we do that, we will not just create community. We will create a model for other communities to replicate that are communities of color. And that's where I'm hoping that we get, where we have a guide map for our community to be able to look at themselves and say, you know what, we are something special. And we preserve ourselves, we activate one another, and we build trust and we build love through love in action. That's where I'm hoping that we get.
Wow. Well, listen, I want to thank you all both for joining me. Once again, we're talking to Carlos Henry, Christy Henry. The Community Lift program is having a major conversation on tomorrow evening, and it's a conversation that's dealing with all of our minority that's in the field of construction and bringing them together, talking about opportunities and opposition, barriers and blessings. So certainly it's a collaborative effort that Carlos Henry is working towards to make sure that we are engaging minorities in the process as development is, it's at a rapid pace in our city. Everywhere you look, buildings are being built, buildings are being demolished. But the question is, where are our minorities when it comes to the participation that needs to happen? So certainly Southside becomes the focal point of what's happening in our city. It's growing by leaps and bounds, and it's the collaboration that's going to make the difference. And certainly we see what collaboration can do, because I understand, and I'll be talking to you much later in the months, Christy, about the collaboration efforts of what they call the soul of Southside.
Thank you for your advocacy, Reverend James. You are a true president.
Well, thank you so much. That's Carlos Henry and Christy Henry talking about the Community Lift program. It's happening. They are advocating strongly for minority contractors. They are advocating to make sure that they're at the table for all of these big developments that are coming forth. And one of the things that we can't do, either we can sit by and talk about what's going on, or either we can get up and get involved to make sure that we make a difference in what's going on. Stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. Keep it locked right here. 95.3 FM. It's Wake Up Wednesday. I want this song to bless you. I'll be right back to wrap it up right here on the hottest talk show on Hallelujah 95.3 FM. Facebook family, I pray that you have enjoyed that segment. Just really trying to bring you abreast on what we're doing here, being involved in making sure that our developers, our contractors that are African Americans are engaged in all of the construction that is taking place. As we see, redevelopment is taking place all over our city. And we want to make sure that African Americans are at the table and they are engaged. How important it is? It's very important, because these are the young men that are going to give those young men who are looking for a second chance an opportunity. These are the young men that if we can get them at the table and get them a part of the process, they're going to be able to give your sons and your nephews and your cousins a job opportunity that can learn a skill set through the construction industry. So we're excited about the work that Carlos Henry is doing, and I'm grateful to be able to know that several young men formerly incarcerated have been given an opportunity, and guess what? They're doing well. So keep us in your prayers right here on Wake Up Wednesday as we continue to inform, inspire you with what's going on in and around our city. Doris Strong, Yvonne Stewart, thank you so much for tuning in. My man Tavares, thank you. That's right. What's next? Mobile Detail. Carlton McWhite, thank you for tuning in. And Maria Nichols, bless you. Miss Juanita Samuel, bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Wake Up Wednesday right here on 95.3 FM. David Daniels, bless you, man. Thank you for tuning in. It's happening right here where we keep the community informed and inspired on what's going on. It's Black History Month, and that was a conversation concerning African Americans who are in an industry whereby they have to be at the table. That's our Black History Month moment. That's our Black History Month conversation, and that's the fight that we're having to make history by keeping our brothers at the table. That's why. I just wanna be where you are. I'm traveling no matter how far. You're my counselor, friend, provider. Want to say good afternoon, and we are back 95.3 FM. That's right, Hallelujah 95.3, and certainly once again as we celebrate Black History Month, that's a major Black History conversation that we were having today with Carlos Henry, Christy Henry, Community Lift. What it's about? It's about this fight. It's about the placement. It's about the involvement of African Americans who are in the construction arena. It's about history that's in the making. And what history is that? It's about bringing and making sure that our minority vendors, our minority contractors, our minorities are at the table as this city begins to expand even the more when it comes to redevelopment. That was your conversation on Black history, and it calls for your collaboration to make history even better. If we're not going to repeat the past, then we got to change what we're doing in the present. But if we continue to do what we're doing in the present, then it's going to continue to be what it always has been. Listen, this is Greg James, Wake Up Wednesday. I want to say to you and yours, remember this, that life gets better when you begin to do what you need to do to make life better. Don't sit by idly by waiting for it to happen, but figure out the way to get involved to make sure that it does happen. Until next Wednesday, I want you to stay blessed, stay encouraged. I want you to stay empowered, and I want you to know that your voice really matters. So get out, get involved, find a way to get engaged in things that are going to make our community better. Hey, listen, I want this song to bless you, and I will say until next week, I want you to follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, Twitter. Make sure you keep up with what we're doing in and around the city. And until then, remember, your moment to change history is now. Be blessed, and I'll see you next week.